What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Accolonn here, and welcome back to each and every one of you. As you may have guessed, I, of course, do not have alpha access to World of Warcraft Dragonflight. I didn't expect to have it, but I did spend last night, firstly, I spent the last 4 days being down and out with food poisoning. But last night, I did spend basically about 4 or 5 hours watching everyone on Twitch test out Dragonflight, at least everyone that had alpha access. There were a couple of things that really stood out to me, things that I wanted to discuss, and then of course we also have a boatload of things that we have to get into that's been data mined, and some of the things that's dropped, and some of the information that we've gotten through interviews and stuff like that. Towley did a bunch of interviews, or at least Towley did an interview with Ian Hazzikostas, and Wowhead had a group interview with Ian Hazzikostas where they again asked him a whole bunch of questions. So we're going to get into all of the things that you need to know right now about Dragonflight, and I'm going to try and keep it spoiler free. There's not been a lot of spoilers, and that's actually the first thing that I really wanted to talk about. It appears as if this alpha, unlike any alpha we've had before, is a lot more targeted. Players immediately got dropped into, I believe, the 3rd zone of the game, and there were very specific things that Blizzard wanted to test. They wanted to test Dragonriding, they wanted some class testing, so the classes that were available for testing, that was already updated, they wanted to see some of that class testing, and they wanted some world testing, but it doesn't seem like there was any real stories or anything like that going on. You couldn't do the quests, like story quests and stuff like that, which, let's hope that that remains true. Let's hope that this is what the alpha and the beta is going to be. Let's hope that they're going to do multiple test phases where you're going to go in, you're going to be able to test one zone and all of the open world content within that zone. And that's just about it. So remember, if you want to join this channel, you want to be one of the cool people on the screen right now, you can do so by clicking the link in the description down below and becoming a patron today, or a YouTube channel member, or you can join us live over on Twitch. With that said, let's start talking about my first impressions while watching people play through the game. What did I think immediately right off the bat? Well, I love the zone. The zone just looked absolutely incredible. I was watching Bellular play last night because Bellular was, unlike most of the other people that I was watching, Bellular was really going into the world, the open world, and the feel of the open world. And I joined his stream while he was testing out Dragonriding. And very quickly, while watching, so I'm not even playing, but while watching, as soon as I got an idea of what you were supposed to do, I found myself looking around the screen as he was flying, looking for the best path to fly towards. Because the way Dragonriding works is, if you're going downhill, you pick up speed. The more speed you gain, the further you can go. And it has this bar that tracks the amount of speed or momentum that you're gaining, as well as this there's like 3 things, I don't know what they're called. He mentioned it, I can't remember, but it's like 3 dots that fill up, and every single one of these can be used to actually shoot yourself up into the sky a little bit, so gain a little bit more height so that you can go down again. So if you do it correctly, you could actually fly really far with Dragonriding, and also really fast, like genuinely really fast. Like right after doing it, he went back to Stormwind and actually went on normal flying, and it was just terrible. It looked like he was standing still for most of it. So it was really, really cool to see the flying. But most importantly, like I said, you find yourself almost immediately paying attention to the world. You want to know what is the best path for me to fly towards, or fly towards my goal, because whichever path gets me the most downhill, gets me the most like height advantage so that I can pick up speed, that's going to allow me to fly there straight forward. And that is important, even if you might think, well, Accolonn, why does that matter? Well, that's the whole point of travel. The whole point, the thing that normal, no-clip flying sort of takes away from the game, Dragonriding puts back into the game. The idea that you are in a world and that the world wants to be traversed. Dragonriding really tells you, hey, this is the world, and the world can either be your friend or your enemy depending on how you approach it. And you start paying attention to the world, which of course turns the world into a character in its own right. Now, I can't really talk about much of the other things. Bellular was doing a bunch of class testing, as was Asmongold, as was MrGM. Love the way the Evoker played. Of course, I won't be an Evoker. I'm going to be a Warlock. Let's not even about it. I'm not going to change my class. I'm going to be a Warlock once again. So, yeah. The Warlock looked, well, Warlocks didn't look like anything. I don't know what I'm talking about. The Evoker looked really fun. One of the things that stood out to me, and this really came from Asmongold's tasting, the thing that stood out to me about the Evoker is just the sheer amount of interplay that the Evoker will have between, and this is a small thing, but it can be so important if Blizzard can pull this through from a philosophical standpoint. So when you're in your dragon form and you switch to your humanoid form will actually increase your out of combat health regen for the entire party. So everyone will have increased out of combat health regen. This is a small thing, but it allows for interplay. So you're doing chain pulls on Mythic Plus and you want to pull as fast as possible. The Evoker, knowing what they're doing, will, as soon as combat ends, switch to their humanoid form to give everyone that increased health regen so that you can get into quicker pulls moving forward. Now, of course, this is going to create some weird imbalances, and higher level keys that do really go for the timed run might actually prefer to have Evokers there, which is going to create disparity between other classes. But if Blizzard can start really applying that to more classes in the game, just think about the limitless possibilities for how these different things can really play into small passive changes that keep people involved throughout the fight. So I really love that, and I just sort of wanted to mention that. Anyways, we do have some larger things that I quickly wanted to bring to your attention. This really came from a lot of the interviews that was done with Ian as he cast this yesterday. So we'll switch to a bit of a screen share here and start with the first thing that is probably going to divide the room straight down the middle. Blizzard confirmed that group loot is returning to World of Warcraft in Dragonflight. Right now, it appears as if group loot is going to be for pre-made groups only. So if it's a pre-made group, you are capable of doing that. So let's quickly see what Ian had to say about this. In a previous interview, you mentioned that master loot was something you wanted to do, but was looking for the right implementation. Which kind of was a change from no previously? Any update to that? Yeah, I think I would describe it more as group loot rather than master loot. That's the specific process of a single loot master allocating the drops. That's actually in some ways some of the stuff we were looking to move away from back in the day, but moving away from personal to a shared pool of loot, where you kill a raid boss, you work together with 15 or 20 or 30 people to do it. There's 5 items on the corpse, and you can roll for those items, you can pass on them, you can trade them to your friends. That's a world we think we want to be in again. We're still hammering out the details, but our current plan is to have raid bosses in Dragonflight work that way. This is a raid boss specific system. Dungeon loot is fine. We haven't really heard people clamoring for the return of group loot in dungeons and getting a bow from a chest at the end of a dungeon when a group has no hunter, but I think raids are uniquely and cooperative experiences. They lend themselves to a cooperative loot allocation mechanism, and that's the current plan. I wonder if this is going to be sufficient in terms of giving both sides not everything they want, but a sufficient compromise. So there are people like myself who really want Master Loot to come back. Then there are other people that really don't want Master Loot to come back. And I think both sides have very good reasons for, wanting their thing to either return or not to return. On the side of those of us that want Master Loot back, it plays very well for people who are in guilds that are well established, and who are in guilds that don't take advantage of loot in order to ninja and stuff like that. For us, it gives us a lot more control over how we want to play the game and how we want to ensure that our group can progress at an optimum pace. But for people who hate this system, it's usually because they were burned in the past quite a lot with ninja loots and shit like that. And of course, it's a system that is rife with abuse. People can abuse it, and therefore the law of averages suggests that people will abuse it. So I think this is a decent compromise between, okay, we're not going to give you the ability to just straight up, master loot, but we will bring group loot back. So this way, if you want to trade something, if you want to make sure that your hunter or your priest or your whatever get the piece of gear, everyone else passes and only the priest goes, yes, I want this. So in many ways, this does solve all of the problems, because if you're in a guild, it's going to be very simple. The master or the loot council is going to decide who gets the piece of loot. Everyone else passes, and only the person that is chosen will get the piece of loot. It is as simple as that. And I think I genuinely believe that it is a decent enough system. Then just a little bit of side content here. Not going to be going too deep into this, but a little bit of side content here. For those of you that might have been interested, Temple of the Jade Serpent and Court of Stars will be, this is confirmed as the Mythic Pluses in Dragonflight. Remember the way Season 1 for Dragonflight is working. In Season 1, you're going to have 4 dungeons from the current expansion from Dragonflight, and then 4 older dungeons that is going to form part of the Mythic Plus. I still have my sort of disagreements with that. I do think that Season 1 should have had all 8 dungeons from Dragonflight be in the rotation. Season 2 should have done 4-4. Just because I feel like in the beginning everything's new, and more importantly, while everyone is going through, through the expansion and getting into the dungeons, we're going to have different dungeons that we love. And if you are a player that maybe loves X dungeon, but X dungeon isn't in the rotation until the 2nd season, you're going to feel pretty crappy, right? Because your favorite dungeon isn't in the Mythic Plus rotation because it's been replaced by some older dungeon that maybe isn't your favorite dungeon. So I feel like Blizzard is leaving a lot on the table here. They're basically opening themselves up for a lot of anger from a large number of players, which could have been completely avoided by just giving all 8 dungeons its time in the spotlight in Season 1, and then from Season 2, you would have the swappy thing, and everyone would be well, no one's always going to be happy. It's World of Warcraft, people complain, but people would have been more happy, I think. That's just my opinion. I'd love to hear yours in the comment section down below. Then another bit of information for anyone here. This is, by the way, we have no idea, because there is a new back slot in World of Warcraft. If you look on the characters, every single one of the characters right now has an added back slot, although no one really seems to know what this back slot is all about. It appears to be some kind of reagent bag. So how many reagents people will have, how many tailoring reagents people will have, or not tailoring reagents, but crafting reagents people will have, we don't know yet, but we do know that there is, and to be fair though, I'm not even sure if Blizzard knows what the final answer to this would be, because right now, as you can see here, there's a new 34 slot bag and a 36 slot reagents bag from tailoring in Dragonflight. Blizzard have confirmed that the new bag slot is for reagents specifically. We'll have to see what sort of falls into the reagent sphere, I suppose you could say. And then finally, we'll end on this. Ian, in an interview with Towley, spoke about lessons learned from the Sepulchre, and the reason I wanted to include this here is I always think that it's interesting whenever Ian and the team admit that something they did was wrong, and to see why they think that was wrong and what they want to do moving forward. So during the interview with Towley, game director Ian Azikostas commented on the team's design philosophy for Dragonflight and the lessons learned from Sepulchre of the first ones, referring to the difficulty of Sepulchre as an arms race between Echo and Liquid. Ian admitted defeat, acknowledging that the tier was a bit too grueling and wasn't the best experiences for the player base. Now, I've watched the interview with Towley, so I'm not gonna show you it. You can go watch it if you want. The truth is, we've spoken about this before on the channel. It's been a hot topic within the community at large. Blizzard went way too hard, and it's sort of what spawned, sparked a lot of the conversation around, is there too many bosses in raids? Is raids just becoming so difficult at the end of the day that more and more guilds are just quitting raiding outright? which is happening, by the way. Right after this, we had, I think, 3 of the top 10 guilds quit World First Raiding in its entirety, and while for most of us this is a dream that we will never be a part of, we don't even want to World First Race, there are people that really love that, and you know, Blizzard should be cognizant. Don't design the game for these people. They are few, but you should be cognizant of these people and the fact that they also play the game and they pay the same way we do. And so yeah, it's good to know that Blizzard admits that you know, they maybe went a little bit too hard. But again, I kind of feel like, you know, it kind of makes sense. I'll show you guys this as well. It's part of, it happened on Twitter, but I'll quickly give you guys this because it does play into this as well. Quite well. All right, so in an interview again with Ian, PC Gamer actually asked Ian about damage meters and his thoughts on damage meters. Now, you can go over to my Twitter, by the way, if you want to see the full article here. I'll just give you sort of a TLDR of what Ian said here. They don't want to design the game for damage meters. They don't want to design the game for people that only want to look at damage meters. And this was specifically as it pertains to the power infusion discussion with priests, which I like. On the one hand, like I said, the same thing applies. The same thing I said about the World First Raiders applies to the damage meter discussion. Other people that love watching damage meters and love playing for damage meters, of course there is. Should the game be designed for those players? Absolutely not. The game should be designed for the vast majority of players that probably don't even know that damage meters exist in World of Warcraft. That being said, though, you can't also not keep those people in mind. Now the whole discussion, and I'll leave you to go look at the article yourself if you want all of the details, but the entire discussion goes towards power infusion being a buff for someone else. And for a lot of priests, this feels horrible because I can't buff myself. I have to buff someone else. And also the way the priest talent tree is set up right now, you kind of have to go into power infusion. Like, all of your talents build towards power infusion, and then you must take power infusion in order to continue your build. So no matter how you want to play your game, you're forced into power infusion. Now, I'm right there with Ian. I agree. Ian says in this article, we want to design the game from a perspective of its group content. It's supposed to be killed by a group. I'm right there with you, Ian, but the problem with the way the talent trees would be set up right now is you're forcing people to take a talent that enforces your vision of how the game should be played, and it's fine to nudge people towards your vision of how the game should be played. It's not fine to force people towards your vision of how the game should be played, because everyone has a different vision of how they want to play the game. So yes, absolutely, design the game to be group content, to be taken down in a group, but then give players the option of not fucking caring and just playing the game solo for those damage meter buffs, right? That's the way the game should be played. All in all, though, guys, I have nothing bad to say about Dragonflight so far. I've done no testing on it because I don't have access to it. But I wanted to cover sort of the most important bits of this. I'm going to have a video later today about some lore stuff. There's really interesting stuff being data mined right now. Not spoilers, at least. I don't know if it's spoilers because it's very early data mines, but it does suggest some really fucking cool things that we will be covering. It's spoiler season. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It is spoiler season. What can I say? But yeah, I'm really looking forward to Dragonflight. Let me know in the comment section down below how you guys feel. I'd love to read everything that you have to say. What is it that you're looking forward to most? Remember, you can join us live over on Twitch, link in the description down below, or become one of the cool people on screen right now by hitting the link and becoming a patron. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, be kind to each other, be good to each other. My name's Accolonn, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace out, fam.